I'm going to briefly introduce our moderator of the panel, Dr. Shiban Ganju. Dr. Shiban Ganju, at least to me, first and foremost, is the chairman of the board of Action for India. He's been great in that role. He's been a source of constant encouragement and support. He is a practicing gastroenterologist from Chicago. He's an All India Institute of Medical Sciences graduate. Over the course of almost 4 decades of public service, in the healthcare domain, he's worked on a ton of projects in healthcare in India. He's worked closely with Mr. Sam Pitroda. He's worked closely with Mr. Rahul Gandhi and others in Amethi. And he's also the founder of Save a Mother, which does fantastic work in reducing mothers' mortality during childbirth. So over to you, Mr. Shiban Ganju. Dr. Shiban Ganju.
Thank you. I'll introduce the panelists here. The format will be, they will each speak for X number of minutes, after which they'll comment on each other's stories, and then we'll put a Q&A. And my job is to keep a timekeeper and a facilitator. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. We have Mr. Anil Sarup. Everybody knows him. He's the pioneer of RSBY. If you don't know him by now, then you're not in social entrepreneurial space. It's one of the most successful projects in the world, if not in India, where he has, under his leadership, we have already reached close to 120 million people with a smart health card, providing health insurance benefits to BPL population. Then we have Mr. Subhash Das. He's an IAS officer of Union Territories cadre with more than 20 years of experience in government. He's held varied positions in Union Territory Government of India and is presently the Health Secretary of the Government of Delhi. He's also worked in the United Nations for 4 years in the health sector. And then we have, among the eminent panelists, Mr. Kanta Rao, IAS officer, 1992 batch of Madhya Pradesh cadre. Is currently President and CEO of National E-Governance Division in the Ministry of IT in the Government of India. He's worked in various fields, including agriculture and livelihoods. So over to Mr. Sarup to begin with. To put it in a framework, I just want them to answer a couple of questions. One is, what should be the enabler's role in social entrepreneurship and how they see their enabling role helping everyone in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'll stand and speak because the food was so good I would fall off to sleep if I was sitting there. First of all, thank you very much for that introduction. Those of you who do not know about Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, it's a smart card-based health insurance scheme that we are trying to do. It covers people beyond BPL as well now, started with BPL. To answer your question, I think the job of the government, to my understanding, is to create a space, to create an enabler for people like you to participate, because I do feel that it is good to start with something. But in the Indian context, if you are unable to scale to levels, then it doesn't make much of it. It doesn't even get noticed. And for scaling anything, I was discussing with Dr. Ganju as we were traveling after that lovely lunch. I was telling him that there are 4 things that are important for anything to sustain over a period of time, to be scaled. Number 1, it should be politically desirable. We all exist in a democracy. So if it's not politically desirable, I can guarantee it won't sustain, no matter how much you hate some of the politicians. But that's it. We exist in democracy, and to scale and to sustain, it has to be politically desirable. So whatever you do, it has to associate with something which is politically desirable, and then it can scale. Secondly, it should be socially desirable. So politically acceptable and socially desirable. If politicians don't accept it, and socially it's not desirable, then I am not in this scene, because ultimately, again, if it has to scale, you'll have to have large masses to be benefited by whatever you're doing. And third, it has to be technologically feasible. And you are, I was talking to some of you, you are technologically pretty sound, so that's not an issue, but it has to be technology. And finally, it has to be financially viable. So I may have a great idea, and in India we have so many ideas. I was again telling Dr. Ganju that the Udan Khatola was mentioned in Indian literature, I don't know how many centuries ago, and who invented them, who found them, right, brothers? So similarly, Agni Ban has been mentioned in our scriptures all over the place, but missile got made by somebody else. So all of us have great ideas. The key is whether we are able to make those ideas work. And for these ideas to work, I think these 4 things are important. And there is all this talk about laws, in-laws, and outlaws. We are obsessed with laws. You find a problem, you say you have a law. Like all this debate going on, Lokpal, Jakpal, or whatever. It's going on, no? The reason is that when British left this country, they took justice with them and left laws and some outlaws behind. And we believe, and sometimes, those outlaws are also involved in these laws. So we believe that laws will give us solutions. It is not so. It is not so. So what I can suggest to you is that there is something already happening being done by the government, RSBY being one of them. To begin with, see whether you can participate in that. I was so glad that one of you walked up to me, and probably he happened to know about something about RSBY, and he gave me his card. Now, set me thinking, and I hope he's also thinking, on how do we utilize what he's done in the field as a part of what is happening in the RSBY. It brings value to both. It brings, what he's told me certainly brings value to RSBY. So I immediately offered to him that let's sit down and discuss. And I'm sure some value will come to him. That's where mutuality has to be there. Ultimately, if I can give you a business proposition, because ultimately sustainability will come through these business propositions. And one reason why RSBY has happened is, it is perhaps the first ever model, a business model for a social sector scheme. I will stop here because this is something I'd like to talk about later on how we can jointly evolve business models where entrepreneurs like you can participate, benefit from it, intellectually, financially, and otherwise. And I don't think making money is a bad word. You should, because that's, again, where sustainability comes in. So I'll stop here. I'll take your questions as you go along. Thank you very much for inviting me here.
Thank you, Dr. Ganju. And my colleagues on the dais and some of the most enthusiastic social innovators and friends. I'm very happy that Sanjay, who is from the same college where I studied, has given me this opportunity to be amongst with you. Though I missed the sessions in the morning, I've been told what all have been achieved by the self-motivated entrepreneurs. We in government, we are trying to do what you are doing for the people, but we do it in a more systematic and, as Mr. Swarup has put it, with a lot of laws around. So I want to, I slightly differ with Mr. Swarup, and I want to say that law, a policy, a plan sometimes helps social innovators, sometimes helps people to systematically channel their efforts towards a certain goal. I currently work in the Ministry of IT on a project called the National E-Governance Plan. You must have heard of it. There is a division in Ministry of IT which handles this plan. And we are trying to deliver services to the common man through the electronic mode. For example, if a common man wants copy of his land record, a copy of the land record, then manually he would have earlier gone to some tehsil office and collected a manual copy. Now we are trying to do the same service delivery through an electronic mode, that he can go to a kiosk and there a digitally signed paper can be printed and given to him. So there are a lot of services which can be delivered. Our rough idea is that of all the services that government delivers, about 20% of the services can definitely be delivered electronically. Now, of the themes that you have selected, let me give a few examples of what services that we are delivering in the electronic mode. In agriculture, we have a mission mode project under the National E-Governance Plan, where a lot of work has been done. Just to give an example, if the farmer has a mobile phone, and if he finds that his crop has some kind of pest attack or some problem, he can take a photo of that crop from his mobile and MMS it to whichever that agricultural institute nearby, and he'll get a reply back saying that what pesticide he can use. That is one of the examples of some of the work that has happened in e-agriculture. In education, for example, one of the schemes, a big scheme that we have is a midday meal scheme. In Uttar Pradesh, we have a tracking of midday meals being provided to children within 1 hour of the meal being served. There is an SMS-based tracking system, and at one place we have a dashboard where we can clearly see, and whatever report that we get from the school teacher, it is flashed to some 10-15 people in the village, and we can immediately cross-check whether the meal has been properly served or not. That's one example. On the energy side, there are many initiatives done by the electricity departments. One such innovation I've heard of, I've not seen, is that switching off your motor using a mobile phone from home. The irrigation, whatever time you time the motor, and then you can switch it off without going to the field, far off field. In health, one very interesting, we have a mission mode project in health, a massive project. One small initiative that we have done in Tripura is that the ophthalmology department has put a telemedicine center in each block headquarter. The patients can go to the block headquarter, they don't need to go all the way to the medical college, and through a telemedicine setup, they are able to check for cataract or for any other problem. It's a very successful model. On the livelihood in NREGA, in Andhra Pradesh, in Bihar, many other states, the entire payment process is online, is through the mobile phone that the worker may have. A lot of them have mobile phones. So he gets an alert, he can use his fingerprint to draw money through a local ATM. So the money payment system has been very well systematically handled. These are just some examples. There are many initiatives which the IT department is doing. To help, one of the questions that Sanjay said we should address is that how does government come up with a policy where it encourages social entrepreneurs, it encourages innovative ideas to come and match with government's efforts. We have recently come up with an IT policy where we have said, among other things, that we want to pick up at least one person from each household in the country and make that person illiterate. Some basic literacy on computers, on the way electronic means can be used for his or her day-to-day work. It's a massive task, and we're looking for ideas as to how to do this e-literacy. So any initiative, any ideas that you may have, you're most welcome. Then we are bringing in, some of you might say, and I've heard people say, that these initiatives in the IT field are very sporadic, very officer-oriented or some department-oriented. Something has happened somewhere, it has not happened all across the country. So we are bringing in an act called the Electronic Delivery of Services Act, which will force each and every department to deliver services in the electronic mode. It is some kind of a self-disciplining act for the government that they have to deliver services compulsorily in the electronic mode wherever it is possible to deliver in the electronic mode. So this is just to give a flavor of the kind of work we are doing, and to say that a lot of your ideas and your work can gel along with us to lead to a better India. Thank you.